It's me, Brianna, and today you're listening to episode 8 of Are We Caught Up Yet? Marvel Edition. I'm also joined by Sam, of course. It would be crazy if he wasn't here. You can
Greetings.
find us on you can find us on youtube.com/Save the Game Media and podcast services. If you do want to show Save the Game Media some extra love and get early access to all of our content and then potentially have Kevin get his butt tattooed, please become a patron. Patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Literally $1 will get us one more person closer to 1,000 patrons. And in which case we will then get Kevin's butt tattooed. Very important. Before we do get started on Thor the Dark World, or is it just Dark World?
It is the Dark World.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Thor the Dark World. How are you today, Sam? And what have you been watching? And all that fun stuff.
Again, I'm going to have to disappoint. I haven't been watching anything. I very rarely do these days. Mainly just because I'm busy, and the little downtime I do have, I sort of dedicate it to other things.
Like platinuming games.
Yeah.
Like Paw Patrol.
It's an hour and a half I'll never get back of my life. But hey,
you don't regret it.
Got a little serotonin burst from it, or whatever. That's the happiness thing, right?
Yes, it is.
So no, I don't regret it. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm quite tired because I did probably the longest walk since my surgery today, and it has taken a lot out of me.
How long did you walk?
I did it. It's not going to sound very impressive, but I walked just under 2 miles in half an hour.
It takes me 30 minutes to walk about a mile, so
I went much further.
You're crushing it. Yeah.
Went to visit my grandmother, actually. So
really?
She enjoyed having company for a couple of hours. Yeah. So I'm doing okay, I'm it's sort of like a status quo in terms of general feeling and vibe. Always tired, a little bit stressed, overworked, but that's if you haven't come to expect that from me, I'm going to continue to disappoint, I'm afraid. That's just my perpetual state of being, and I've made peace with that fact.
How long are we going to stay in this perpetual state?
The word perpetual is there for a reason, Brie.
Right, but you can make changes to your life. I don't know if you knew this or not.
The better question to be asking is, am I going to make changes to my life?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at.
No.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I'm quite content in this perpetual state of being, or at least my brain is tricking me into thinking I am. So unless I have some kind of rude awakening, this will be the status quo.
Lena, come on.
How are you?
Come say hi. I'm petting Luna. That's how I am. No. I'm doing pretty good. Nothing. Well, I mean, everything considered, I'd say I'm doing pretty good. Having like weird stuff happen at the same time as good stuff, and it kind of puts you in that weird middle state, where it's like, well, there are good things happening, but there's also weird stuff happening. So it's like almost ends up neutralizing itself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am. My job is looking up. My supervisor went and had a conversation with HR about changing my job description and what I'd be doing. And like the person that they're hiring will be taking over training. So that way I can work on content management for the most part. So that'll be so much better.
Hell yeah.
Is there anything else going on? Luna's cute. She's smelling my shirt, which always scares me that there's something on it, but it's fine. In terms of what I've been watching, I haven't been watching like a lot of TV. I think I've been reading mostly. I did just come back from the theater, like, directly. I went and watched a film called Past Lives. Um, it is, I believe it's a Korean film, but it's, like, half English, half in Korean. And it was really, really good. It's kind of about, like, crossing paths with somebody and the decisions you kind of make as you cross paths with those people and, like, what could have happened kind of thing. I don't know.
Interesting.
It was a really interesting film to watch. It was really good.
So
Uh,
like Cloud Atlas.
I've never seen that.
God damn it.
Yeah, so it's mostly it's kind of about the Korean concept of, like, gathering, like, this energy as you go through your, because they believe that you live more than one life, right? So it's
Mhm.
about, like, the energy that you gather from your past lives. And so it's about these two kids that kind of meet when they're, like, I think 12, and then it shows them 12 years in the future and then 24 years in the future. And, like, it's like they've kind of been in love all this time, but, like, it never really worked out kind of thing.
Mm.
And, like, how them crossing paths kind of, anyways, yeah. It's really good. I don't know.
Oh,
It's, like, kind of those one of those films that, like, makes you sit and think, like, what could have happened?
like Cloud
So,
Atlas.
sure. Sure.
Hey, if you liked this film, you'd like Cloud Atlas. Slept on film. I will defend it
Okay.
to the end of days.
Wait, is that the one with the multiple perspectives and it's based on a book?
Cloud Atlas is a book, yes, but I mean, what your descriptive thing that
Okay.
you just gave there does not really
No.
narrow it down. A film with
Mm.
multiple perspectives based on
Yeah,
a book.
it's like people, it jumps, like, times and places, and I
Yes,
can't remember. Like, I
but
haven't
it's
seen
all
it,
about.
so
But it's all about the actions that you take in past lives determine, you know, what happens to you and how things play out in your future lives and whether you can sort of change that and karmic debt that you build up, be it good or bad, and how that pays off
mm,
in the future, that kind of thing. It's very good.
I see. Okay. Well, maybe I'll check it out at some point. There's another movie that I keep hearing whispers of that I know I have to watch at some point. I think it's called Robot and Frank.
You think? Yeah, I think that does ring a bell. Yeah,
Yeah, you've heard of it?
yeah. No, I might have seen it. I can't quite remember.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe I'll
Yeah,
watch it at some point.
probably not.
You're so mean. Okay. First, to start out with, The Dark World, excuse me. Spoiler free, general thoughts. How do you feel about this film, Sam?
No, I want to hear you first.
You're so sassy today. God. Um, okay. General thoughts. Okay. It was weirdly good, but also weirdly generic. Like, I feel like there were some things that were, like, very cookie cutter about this film, and other things that I really enjoyed that this film did. And I think the combination between the really good and the meh kind of just makes it like a good film. I feel like this movie really could have been a great film, but it wasn't quite there. But I still really like it. I had a good time. Um, yeah, those are my general thoughts.
Interesting.
What are your general thoughts?
I mean, obviously, I don't know how much research you do into these things
I do no
before,
research.
after, or during. Before, during, or after watching it.
If TikTok shows me something great, if TikTok doesn't show me something great.
Okay, so you still haven't looked up anything about this film.
Uh-uh.
Okay, this is without a doubt the most hated film in the MCU in its entire
Really?
span. Pretty much everyone agrees
Hulk was
that
way worse than this.
pretty much everyone agrees that this film is trash. And I don't know that I agree, but I don't know that I disagree. Not necessarily for the film being actively bad, but I think, like you said, the fact that so much of it is generic, bland, milk toast, cookie cutter, that's almost worse, because
Yeah.
this film ends up being incredibly, incredibly forgettable. And I think that that's a worse crime than being
Huh.
objectively bad. Hey, I'm glad you liked it, honestly, because I can tell you now it is only up from here.
So we've now hit the low point.
What is considered the low point, and I
Okay,
don't think
well,
that
I'll
there's a
tell you
film.
what. Hulk was way worse than this.
Everyone is entitled to their opinions, even if they're wrong. You know, Brie. I'm not gonna.
Hulk is way worse than this.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not great. It's not great. It's okay, but like you said, I think that there are elements of this film that I think are really interesting, and some things even that are kind of well executed, but they just don't capitalize on basically anything. And it just feels so underbaked by the end of the film. It kind of feels
Yeah.
like you've watched maybe the opening act and half of the second act, and then they just wrap things up super quickly, and you're like, there's
Maybe
so
I'm just
much.
used to that because of anime. The anime does that
Maybe,
so often.
maybe.
They're like, hey, we got plenty of time to wrap this up. We got 12 episodes. And then we hit episode 11, and they're like, we've got 2 episodes to get this wrapped up.
Hey, if you're all right with that, then just you wait till some of the Disney Plus shows that we're going to get to, because Jesus Christ. Yeah,
I just
that's
want to watch
my
Loki, honestly.
spoiler-free thoughts.
Okay.
Not
Fine
as
with me.
bad as everyone says it is, but not much better than what they say it is.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think the thing is I think that the film did some stuff well.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just kind of like a mixed bag of like, but okay, well, let's jump into not spoiler free. um I apologize for typing. I was listening, but I had to write down like little notes or else I would forget the things that I wanted to bring
That's
up.
fine.
So soundtrack generic.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna like go further than that because I'm
No.
really sick of it being generic.
Yeah, it's pretty boring.
Especially, you know what? Going from listening to Spider-Man 2 live to listening to this, I was like, this is. I know they're different things because it's like Sony versus Marvel, but still.
Well, and one's a game and one's a film, so
Yeah. Games and films can have equally as good soundtracks, though.
I'm not debating that. I'm just
Oh, okay.
making it clear that they are very different products at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna jump past that. Characters. So this definitely passes the Bechdel test by quite a margin, I would say. Um, I think I want to say like the things that I did like about this film, I think were a lot of what the characters did versus like what the plot was doing.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Okay, so one of the things I didn't like about the characters was like the Sif versus Jane. Like, I didn't like that weird, like staring at each other from across the room.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other woman. And I'm like, there is no other woman. Like,
I think
uh,
well, I think that would have worked if they had actually established Sif as a compelling, like even somewhat love interest to Thor. Like we just haven't really. Obviously, they've had a little bit of banter over the past 2 Thor films, but like we've never really gotten an indication that there was any even semblance of something beyond that, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think that they worked as friends. Like, it's okay for men and women to be friends. Like,
So it kind of like, not that it assassinates Sif as a character, but I think that it dampens her potential, because when you do
yeah,
see a scene like that of her staring at Jane and stuff, she comes across as just sort of more like, I don't want to say the word delusional, but like she has ideas in her head about the relationship that she has with Thor that just aren't true. And I just think that that's a really uninteresting decision to make for her character. Obviously, the actress had nothing to do with that, but still, I think it's a weird choice. You know,
you
I
should
think
say Delulu now, by the way.
that's the
Yeah,
lingo, is it?
Delulu.
I'm not even going to slightly trust you on that. You are
I'm
never
not
going to hear.
joking.
You're not going to hear those words come out of my mouth. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Sam's dedicated to being old.
yeah, like I don't know. I kind of, what if, for example, obviously the film kind of
Mm-hmm.
opens up and Thor is fighting all these people with Sif, and it's like, oh, they have a good rapport going and stuff, and Thor's all cocky. Because of the end of the last film, where, you know, he obviously had to shatter the bridge and now he couldn't go back to Earth and visit Jane, it would have been really interesting if there had been like even just a minor time jump where Thor and Sif had sort of, Thor had like confided in Sif about, you know, how he's really upset about not being able to go back to Earth, and then Thor and Sif get close. I don't know how this would be shown to us in the film, but you sort of get where I'm going. That
Mm-hmm.
if we had had that, and that there was a even somewhat semblance of intimacy between the two, I wouldn't. I don't think I would have had any issue with her giving eyes to Jane, because as much as it is
No.
sort of, again, still pitting woman against woman, it would have been like, that's the guy that I love, admire, whatever, and I've tried so hard for so long, and I was this close, and you know, now
This
you've
random person
come
comes
back.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that they could there were several like routes that they could have taken with that that would have
Mm,
made it work, and they didn't take any of them, and so it just feels so weird and I didn't like it.
yeah.
Real Delulu, you know?
It's not making it any better.
Okay. What else can we say about characters? How do you say his mom's name? Thor's mom's name?
Frigg,
Okay. Because they have an A in
like
there.
frog, but with a.
That's how I thought, because I thought it was Frigg, and then they always say the A in there. And I'm like, I
I
don't
know, I know.
think that's her actual name.
We'll just go Frigg, you know.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. Okay. So I hate that they killed her off so much. On top of that, there was so much stuff that was around her death that I just was so frustrated with. I will say the one thing I really, really, really enjoyed was how badass she was in that first initial fight. I was like, oh my God, yes. I was so excited. And then obviously the second person comes in and is like, you're dead. Which
Mm,
I get. Like, I get she can't fight like two giant dudes off. Like, I get it. But I just really liked that moment of her being like super badass. And I wish we had been able to see that more because she was really cool.
yeah,
Um,
I agree, but I think in terms of something that worked, the payoff that we get from her death in terms of the reaction of both Thor and Loki throughout the rest of the film, I think is worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, but I just don't think that because okay, so for example, like Loki, like did nobody think like, hey, nobody even said anything like, yo, Loki's not at the funeral. What's going on?
Mm,
Nobody invited him. Nobody said anything about him not being at the funeral. Not even he said anything about not being at the funeral. And I thought that was really messed up. Like, because clearly they know how to get him in and out of the prison, or else they wouldn't have been able to get him in the first place.
Sure, but obviously the reality is that Loki technically killed his mum, because as the prisoners were breaking out, he told them to go up in the direction of,
But they
not
don't know that,
unintentionally,
right?
obvious. He didn't know that his mum was up there,
Yeah.
but he sent them in that direction. So
Right. So I
like
get that part, but they wouldn't have even known that to be like, "Oh, well, you unintentionally killed our mom, so like now you can't come to the funeral."
maybe they do, maybe that's a suspension of disbelief.
I think he should have been there. I thought that was really messed up. It felt, I don't know if I'm just triggered because like I'm not going to spoil anything, but Succession, I don't know if I'm triggered because of that. Like like somebody call Connor. Like I don't know if that's what was getting me, but I was like, why is Loki not here? Hello? So that bugged me. Um and I'm trying to think, there was one other thing with her death that I really didn't enjoy. No, I think that was everything. I didn't like that she died, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, anything else to say on her character?
No. No.
Okay. Okay. What else? I really could have used like this first part of the film, like I don't know how, but the first part of the film somehow like condensed a little bit or changed a little bit so that we could have gotten more of like the Thor and Loki time. Like moving to Thor and Loki's characters. I wish I could have seen that dynamic a little bit more because we haven't really gotten to see it in any of these films, right? Because he's always been like the enemy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obviously the best parts of the film when Thor and Loki are sort of, bouncing off of one another. Um, their dialogue back and forth, I think, is the best parts of this film. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I agree. I think, again, sort of going back to how sort of bland the film is, I think that not only in terms of like how it's presented to us, in terms of like the cinematography, color palette, that kind of thing, it's so drab and just gray and boring, for the majority of the time. To then have like stuff that, one, is just thrust into our face, two, not really thoroughly explained at all, that we're just meant to accept,
Mm-hmm.
and then two, three, for it to drag on for as long as it does until you get to some of the better stuff. It sort of, again, like, I think that's why so many people hold so much contempt for it. It's just sort of like it almost feels like as you're watching the film, you're wasting your time, which is never something you want to do when you're talking about a piece of
I wonder
entertainment.
if it's because I usually do something else while I'm watching movies that I didn't feel like I was wasting my time. Hmm.
Maybe.
I was just
I
like, yeah,
can't
I'll just,
confirm or deny, but
yeah,
you know,
makes sense. Okay. Well, okay. So trying to think more on Loki. One of the things that kind of also bothered me, like in terms of like characters and talking about like between Thor and Loki, was like the whole death scene. That
hmm,
was like so bland. That was like, oh, we're just moving on, okay? I didn't even like kind of tear up. I was like, all right.
yeah, yeah. Again, just missed opportunity. There's inklings of great stuff here, but it's just none of it is executed very well.
And I even if and I don't think that that's even what they were trying to do, but even if they were trying to say, well, he didn't really have strong feelings for his brother anymore because his brother was evil, so he's like kind of over it kind of thing. Like, even if they were trying to do that, like they didn't even do enough to like even do that plot. So
Yeah,
it's like, does he just not care about his brother? Does he care about his brother and they were trying to show it, but there's no emotional range like that's
yeah,
happening? Like I don't know. I don't know. It was all really bizarre. And then he just goes, he's like, "All right, let's go." I don't know. The whole thing, I was just kind of like, "Oh, oh." Okay. Um,
But is Loki really dead? You know,
he is not. They confirm at the end of the film.
they do. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Impersonating Odin. God, has
Wait,
he learned
that's my
nothing?
actual question. Is Odin dead, or is he just in the other room?
Oh
He's
well,
like taking breakfast.
that's a good question.
Has
Yeah.
no idea what's going on. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
I feel like Odin's probably dead, but I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure.
So why? Who knows? You know, I don't.
Who knows? Indeed. Um, let's see. I think that's. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to say with Loki is like that ending piece when I really am interested because he didn't seem to be affected at all by like the kind words that his brother said about him. He's still like, nope, I'm still gonna be a jerk. Like, like I don't know, like I feel like because he knows that like in his head, Thor doesn't know he's alive, right? And he's just speaking to his father. And like,
Hmm.
Loki was the right person and like
Yeah.
he's gone. But Loki isn't gone. He's
Yeah.
listening, and I just feel like there was like a lot of complex stuff happening there, and it just was like, there you go, bye. Again, I was like, okay,
Loki just doesn't care. It's all a game to him. He's always playing you, even when it seems like he's not.
mm,
You know, he gave the whole speech as he was dying. It's like that's all nonsense. I didn't
mm-hmm,
do it for him. It's like you didn't do it for anybody but yourself. You know,
yeah, I get it.
making Thor think that you're dead is obviously you trying to achieve something because it's getting Thor off guard
Yeah,
so that he can do something like what he does at the end of the film.
yeah. Hmm.
So,
Guess we'll see.
yeah. Or not. You know, there's never been any Thor films after this. So,
I heard
answers.
that there's one good one and one bad one.
No, we're past the bad one. You know, this was
Oh,
a
I
bad
thought
one.
the last one was the bad one.
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny.
Mm. Okay, we'll see. Okay. Other character stuff. I don't really have much to say about any of the other characters besides like I'd say like Thor. I'm trying to think if there's anybody. Malekith was like so boring.
How
I do.
how do you get the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, and waste him like this? How do you do that?
I was
Chris,
curious who he was because I was like, who
he's
is this
such
dude?
a great actor, and you waste him. You waste him.
That's kind of how I feel about Idris Elba. I like his role as Heimdall. He does fantastic. Man, he could have been a really cool hero.
Sure, but at least you know it's him, you know? Like
Yeah.
you look at Malekith and you're like, that is the most bland, generic looking villain I've ever seen.
They said, can we do Lord of the Rings, but like our version?
Yeah,
And it was terrible.
yeah, yeah. It's God
Uh,
damn it. And what
again,
what was his whole deal? Like what I know he got a little bit
no
of
idea.
explanation about the Dark Elves, but like what moving on.
There's nothing to say there. Like we don't know anything that's going on.
Well,
Like
he's dead now, so you know, um that's that done and
bye.
dusted. Not going to miss you. I mean, I suppose we should probably talk about Jane for a minute.
Yeah, I was trying
Not that
to first.
not that there's much to say, but
Yeah, I thought there were some really funny moments with Eric and Darcy. That's all I wanted to say about those two characters. I feel like they kind of carried the film in terms of like humor.
Darcy is a underrated character for sure.
Yeah.
I
The
think some people
the
view her
gross
as
making
like,
out at the end too. It was so funny.
yeah,
I was like,
like
ugh.
a lot of people view her as like grating, which I understand where that sentiment comes from, but I think that she's like so inept and just has like no idea what's going on half the time,
Mm-hmm.
but she's still like that is part of her charm. And she's incredibly funny for it, I think.
I think
So
she's funny.
yeah,
So
she's more. maybe it's a hot take, I don't know. I would be more happy if Darcy was the love interest to Thor
Then Jane.
than Jane. Because Jane's kind of
Mm,
boring, really.
I don't know if I'd be more or less happy, because the only reason I think that her character ended up that way, especially with the way that films are written, like a lot of these cheesier films, is like she couldn't have ever been the love interest, because the thing is like the love interest is like the hero's reward for saving people, right? Like that's all they are. So
Sure,
that's why they
I
have no
don't mean
personality.
I don't mean if their characters stayed the same, but if it was a fundamentally different dynamic and
Yeah.
Darcy was a slightly different character in terms of importance to the plot, I prefer her and her
Yeah.
character than Jane, because
Yeah, I agree. Jane doesn't really do anything.
like Jane's cool. She's obviously very clever, and she's like a get stuff done kind of woman, and
But she
she
doesn't
doesn't
really do
take
they
no
don't
messing.
utilize her though. Like she
Yeah,
doesn't really do anything.
she's literally like a vessel for like 75% of this film
Mhm.
that's just incapable of doing anything because something's like possessed her from the inside,
Mhm.
So it's like, oh, okay. I guess you technically tried to do something interesting with her character by making her character do nothing.
Mhm.
Again, missed opportunities.
Huge missed opportunities. Okay. Wait, did you have anything else you wanted to say on Jane? Because she's just, again, this, I feel like this is the most bland that she's been so far.
Yeah, it's just like she's doing more science stuff, which is like that. That's cool, but we saw it in the first film, and it was better in the first film, and she had a more likable personality, I'd say, in the first film as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
it was all she was quite bitter in this film, I think, because of Thor, leaving her and stuff. Whereas in the first film, she was full of like whimsy and wonder
Oh,
because she was being exposed to all of this stuff.
yeah. And the thing is like her one line, like about like New York, I was like, I would be pissed off too. Like, hey, you made it to New York. You made it all the way to New York, but you just didn't come visit me. That's chill.
Yeah.
I would also be like, yo, what is happening? Like, you travel across worlds and you can't come a little bit further, especially when he can literally just fly there. Like, it's not like he couldn't have just thrown his hammer and just taken the hammer.
He was busy, like have some perspective, Jane. All right, not everything's about you.
After you save the world, you're done. Go
Maybe
visit.
he had to go right back to somewhere else in the galaxy to save a planet like he's doing at the start of this film. Maybe he's needed elsewhere.
Sounds like a bunch of excuses to me. No, I think that was kind of funny because I did like those lines that she was like, "You visited New York." Like, anyways,
But like,
it
what?
was funny.
I get it, and it makes sense that she'd be a bit sort of bitter. But I'm not sure that the trade-off of making her a bit of a wet lettuce of a character.
No, it's not a good trade off. I'm
It's
just
like,
pointing out the few lines that she was actually funny
no,
in.
no, yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. Have you ever been slapped with wet lettuce?
No,
But now I kind of want to try slapping somebody with wet lettuce. Oh, what was I doing the other day? Oh, I was watching Hell's Paradise. It's an anime. And like lots of people die, lots of blood everywhere, right? And I'm like, man, I don't want to murder somebody, but I just kind of want to try like flinging blood off of a sword because it looks like so satisfying. Do you know what I mean? Just being like, oh. But
cool. You know,
yeah, I think it's
cool.
cool. I did blood pattern analysis and I have a certificate in
You're not aiding your case here.
it. What? What's my case? I'm not making a case.
You're making a case for it being okay to flick blood off a sword. But
But
it's
what they
like,
do for blood pattern analysis is they get cow's blood.
okay, but how are you going to get the
And
cow's
then
blood?
I don't know, become a blood
Right.
pattern analyst.
I feel like you're jumping through a lot of hoops to do something relatively boring in the grand scheme of things.
I know. Maybe I'll just put like yogurt. That's not the same, but at least it'll be somewhat satisfying.
I don't know how we got to yogurt, but fine.
Okay. All right. Last person, I think. Wait, Heimdall and Thor, I think, are the last two that had like. I really liked Heimdall. I think his character was very successfully done in this film. Out of all of the characters, like he could have been there more, but I think they did pretty well with his character
Yeah,
for the most part. Especially like the part where he ran and was like, ugh, like stabbed an invisible ship. That was pretty cool.
sure, because he can see everything.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Thor. I don't really have much to say about Thor for him being the main character. Like,
Yeah, he's Thor.
yeah,
He's being
it's like
Thor.
wow, he's buff. That's about all I got.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're in the stage of them not really knowing what to do with Thor as a character.
Mm,
So, you know.
yeah. All right. Well, we'll skip past characters, and I think that finishes that. Is there anything with the theme slash story of the movie that you kind of wanted to touch?
No.
Okay.
I and I'm not doing that for a bit. I don't know that there
No,
is.
I get it.
I
It's
don't know
fine.
that there is anything really sort of profoundly thematic in this film. I think it is just we needed to make another superhero film with Thor. He needs bad guys to fight, and he needs to win in the end.
Isn't it so sad though? Because there's so much mythology that they could have drawn on.
Yeah.
That's okay. That was another thing that I did want to kind of talk about, like talking about like themes, not themes of like story themes, but like the way that they do this film. I think one of my biggest pet peeves with the way that they portray Thor, the way that they portray like Asgard and all of that stuff is they're leaning so hard into sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
They're like trying to make like a Star Wars Lord of the Rings hybrid, and it's not working for me. I don't like the way that any of it is done. Like the weird ships, but like they still fight with like swords, but some of them have guns, but like not really. But like it's so messy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The one thing I'll say to argue kind of with myself is I understand why they're kind of leaning into the sci-fi ish because it's the only way that they can, well, not the only way. It makes it easier to blend Thor's world with everybody else's worlds.
Yes.
I understand that. But I think they could have done it more intelligently and they didn't need to do these weird sci-fi elements.
Yeah. And I think as well, you know, obviously I'm the only one that can say this currently with sort of retrospect, but they have done what you just said with future things where
Oh,
it is
that's
a world that
lovely.
is very different tonally or visually. I mean, well, Asgard is different visually than Earth, but you know what I mean. Like that, they
Mhm.
take big strides away from what we know as the pre-established world of the MCU. And I don't know that I dislike what they do with Asgard and its people and technology and stuff, but I
I
think that
dislike
there
it.
were some potentially more interesting choices in places that they could have made.
Yeah, I think it's also hard like seeing all of this with like the God of War retrospect, you
Sure,
know?
sure. You just wanted the
So,
really, really fat ginger Thor.
yes.
Yeah. Alas,
That is exactly what I was thinking.
it's not going to happen.
Oh well.
Thor's too buff.
Okay. Okay. This is actually the thing I was looking forward to the most is the through line discuss. Oh wait, Stanley. He was there.
Yes,
He was in the nursing home
he certainly
place
was.
thing. He's like, "Can I have my shoe back?" Okay, through line. Okay, so we've now, and I think that this is probably a little bit like because I already know kind of some of what's going on. They're like, oh, we know we have one Infinity Stone, like however many more to go, whatever. But they already know where the other one is too, so they know where two are now.
Mm,
Questions you don't have to answer, obviously. One,
of
is that
course.
guy Thanos in disguise? Can Thanos disguise himself? I don't know anything about Thanos besides he's giant and purple. That's all I got. That's all I
So you're
got.
talking about the end credit scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
I,
those are kind of my questions.
he is not Thanos. That's all I'll say.
Okay, that's good. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. So he's like some sort of collector dude. We know he's looking for the Infinity Stones.
Hmm.
Because of my retrospect, and probably anybody that's even kind of like not a Marvel fan or even kind of like you've heard of the Infinity Stones at the very least.
Hmm.
So like I know that this is like something important. But I'm kind of weirded out that the Infinity Stones are like these weird objects that are very like obscure that aren't really stones, but they're still stones. So like interested
Don't
how they
don't you worry.
I'm interested how they fix that. So
Things will start to take shape, both metaphorically and literally.
yeah, I was just kind of excited because it was like, oh, this is like they're finally like leading into like the big thing.
Yes, the pieces of the puzzle are very slowly but surely coming together.
Yeah. So I was excited
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
That was it.
No,
I don't have anything else to say.
I obviously it's a very small thing in the end credit, but it's again, or at least visually, the sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, like the collection room that guy has.
Mhm.
It's he's got a very different style to anybody on Earth and anybody on
Yeah,
Asgard.
can I he feels like he's from Guardians of the Galaxy. That's
I
my
can neither
prediction.
confirm or deny.
No, I know, but that's he feels like Guardians of the Galaxy world.
Interesting. Okay,
That's my take. I was like,
that
"Oh."
is a take for sure.
I was like, "Oh, are we gonna get like a reference to Guardians?" That's what I thought it was. That's what I thought was happening. And
No,
then I was like, "Oh, Infinity Stones," and I was like,
no.
"Oh." So that's my guess. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that was my guess.
Who knows?
Um, you do, but it's okay. We don't need to know
I
now.
do know. Yeah.
Um, okay. Last piece. Wait, do you have anything else you want to say on the film?
Just in general.
Yeah, just in general before I move on to the last piece.
Um, I I I wish that they were more confident. I think in this film in general.
Mm.
Um, that it gets into a lot of the sort of behind the scenes stuff, but there was a lot of pre-production trouble with this film. Um, Kenneth Branagh obviously directed the first Thor film. He was set to direct this one, dropped out. They were going to get Patty Jenkins, who did the Wonder Woman films. She dropped out. Um, there was a lot, obviously, very clearly a lot of creative trouble going on here, and I think that you can tell by the film that we watched, the final product, it was tinkered with just non-stop. It feels like so many things were cut, scenes were shortened, things were stitched together that maybe shouldn't be. It feels like a hodgepodge of ideas that were just
Mhm.
underbaked. And I think that if they had committed to any one of those ideas in a full fashion, um, the film might not necessarily be better for it, but I think that it would be a more interesting film, um, or more memorable for one reason or another. But I think it kind of feels like this is generalizing a little bit, but in my head, I view this film and I kind of feel like it was written and made by like Chat GPT. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it feels like you gave the most basic parameters to an AI and they made a film.
It was written
that
by Riz.
is like taking no risks. It is not visually interesting. It doesn't really advance the overarching plot in any compelling way. There's
Yeah.
not that much character development going on. It's just a very safe product, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is unfortunate, but oh well.
Only up from here, like I say,
Oh, okay, that's good. Including the TV shows?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
So,
Interesting.
now that I say that, you're probably going to hate like
I will find
half
something
of
that
the
I don't
stuff.
like. Yeah,
And
it's
I'll
fine.
just have to tell you you're wrong, which is fine.
You are definitely going to be the one in the wrong, but that's okay.
I don't think so, because I've got good taste. That's not to imply
You're
that you
right. I do have
don't.
terrible. No, I have terrible taste. No, you're right.
Well, I mean, I think
The recording just said, okay, it's still recording, but it just was done with your BS.
that was that I never left. You did, and then the screen went black, and now it's back.
It's okay.
So
It did stop recording, but again, I think Melon was just saying that you. No, you know what? I'll agree with you. I have terrible taste.
No, see, if you agree with me, it's probably going to do it again because it obviously didn't like some sort of
No, it's too late. I agree
ethereal
with you.
force hated that I said that.
Except for Kevin. Kevin has worse taste than me.
That's fair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about that.
Undeniable.
Okay, ranking. Under Hulk.
Yes. At least there was interesting things in Hulk,
No, there wasn't.
There was. There was.
Here's the thing that I think might upset you. I'm trying to decide if I want to put this above Captain America.
Wherever you can put it at number 1 if you want.
No,
I
I
won't
don't want
say
to put it at
anything.
number 1.
I'm not going to say anything.
Man, Captain America. I'll put it under Captain America, but just barely. I almost want to put it above Captain America just because of America, but what can you do?
Harsh. That is unfairly maligning the film.
What can you do? Okay, next is, hold on, I have it here. Don't tell me. Captain America, the Winter Soldier?
It is, indeed, yes.
Okay, so that's what we'll be watching for next time. Hopefully it's at least slightly better than this. I'm just kidding. I actually was fine watching this. I was fine. I'm being dramatic.
Knows? Is it going to be better than the first Captain America?
Probably. I hope so. If it's worse, I'll be pretty upset because I did not. Yeah.
Who knows? Nobody's ever seen it.
I haven't, so.
There are no.
I didn't think I would ever watch the Captain Americas. Some of the other ones, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll watch these. Captain America was one I was like, I don't know if I'll ever watch that.
Well, yeah, you're about to.
I know. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Halfway through phase 2, I believe, with that. The next one.
Let's look. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 films. So yeah, this will be the 3rd film in phase 2.
Yeah. Look at that. Speeding through it.
Okay. Well, actually, in real life, we haven't recorded one of these in a very long time. But, it's okay. It's okay. All right. Well, we will see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching. Let us know how you feel about it. And also, please become a patron. $1, again, gets us one person closer. Because it's not about how much money. It's about how many patrons we have. One person closer to the 1,000 people being our patrons on Patreon. And then Kevin gets a tattoo. So we're just getting closer every time somebody do $1. Okay, that's all I'll say about that. So where can people find you?
People can find me for potentially the very short term future on Twitter. At Sam Heaney. That is Heaney.
You can find me at Fabulous Brianna, FabulistBreanna. And you can find us at Save the Game Media or Save Game Media on Twitter. Rest in peace, Twitter. Yeah, I think that's everything. I hope you guys have a great 2 weeks in your time. Bye.
Bye.